I get it, you've been scrolling through a dozen welding setups, trying to decide if a 3-in-1 machine is really worth the space on your garage bench, or if you'd be better off buying separate tools for each job. You've probably heard the hype about una decidere ephemeral, but the fear of ending up with a jack of all trades that's master of none still lingers. If you're standing at that crossroads, the link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's break down what the KYTGFH plasma cutter TIG stick welder actually does in a real workshop, who will get the most bang for their buck, and where the compromises hide behind the glossy marketing copy. First off, the thing you're looking at is marketed as a 3-in-1 combo, a 50-amp air plasma cutter, a 200-amp TIG welder, and a stick welder that you can flip between with a single switch. That sounds convenient, especially if you're a hobbyist who dabbles in automotive repairs, small metal art projects, and occasional fence repairs. The real question is whether the unit can handle each of those tasks well enough that you don't feel the need to upgrade to a dedicated machine later. Let's start with the plasma cutter side. A 50-amp plasma cutter sits comfortably in the sweet spot for cutting mild carbon steel up to about inch thick. In my own shop, I've used similar rated cutters to slice through old car panels and to trim sheet metal for custom brackets. The key practical point is the air plasma designation. You need a steady source of compressed air, typically 90 psi, to run it. If you already have an air compressor for cleaning or inflating tires, that's a non-issue. If not, you'll have to factor in the cost and space of an additional compressor, which can be a hidden expense many first-time buyers overlook. When the cutter fires, the arc is surprisingly stable for a unit in this price range. I found that the cut edge is clean enough that I rarely need to sand it before welding, which saves a few minutes on each project. However, because the machine is designed to be a combo, the plasma function shares its power supply with the welding functions. That means you'll never see the same rapid pierce speed you'd get from a dedicated 80-amp cutter, but for hobby-level work the trade-off is acceptable. One practical downside is the lack of a built-in air regulator. You have to adjust your compressor manually, and if your pressure drifts, the cut quality can wobble. It's something to keep in mind if you plan on long cuts or need consistent edge quality for decorative work. Switching to TIG welding, the 200-amp rating puts this machine in the range needed for welding inch steel, thin aluminum, and even some stainless steel with the right filler. The DC TIG mode is the most precise of the three, and that precision shows up when you're trying to join thin-gauge sheet metal for automotive panels or creating neat jewelry pieces. The unit's control knobs feel decent, and the duty cycle is generous enough that you can weld for several minutes before the machine needs a cool-down pause. That said, the machine doesn't have a foot pedal for fine current modulation, which is something serious TIG enthusiasts often rely on for delicate bead control. If you're used to that level of finesse, you'll notice the limitation quickly. On the upside, the machine includes a basic TIG torch and a gas hose, so you won't be hunting for accessories right out of the box. Now on to stick welding. The DC stick mode is the workhorse for heavy-duty repairs. Think fixing a broken farm gate or welding a steel frame for a backyard shed. With 200 amps at your disposal, you can handle inch rods without cranking the dial too high. The biggest practical strength here is the speed of setup. You just clamp the electrode holder, select the right rod, and you're ready to go. There's no need for shielding gas, which makes it ideal for outdoor jobs where wind would ruin a TIG or plasma cut. However, the downside is that the machine doesn't have a high-frequency start, so you have to manually strike the arc. That can be a bit of a learning curve if you've only ever used inverter-based stick welders that spark automatically. Also, the combo's duty cycle drops a bit when you stay in stick mode for extended periods, so you may need to pause more often on big jobs. So, who should actually buy this KYTGFH combo? If you're a DIYer who wants one piece of equipment that can handle occasional plasma cuts, occasional TIG work, and regular stick repairs, the value proposition is solid. The price point is lower than buying 3 separate machines, and the footprint saves you garage space. It's also a good entry point for someone just getting into welding who wants to explore different processes without committing to a full-blown industrial setup. For example, a hobbyist building a custom motorcycle frame could use the plasma cutter for shaping steel tubing, the TIG mode for welding thin aluminum brackets, and